I saw my boyfriend kissing another girl from afar, went home, and cried as I texted him to break up. He called me directly, sneering. Say that to my face if you have the guts. Let's break up, Ethan. I sniffled. After typing those words, I wiped away the tears dripping onto my phone. The moment I hit send, I couldn't stop myself from hugging my knees and crying. Earlier today, I saw him kissing another girl from afar, but I didn't have the courage to go up and confront him. I was scared that if Ethan got angry, his 6 feet 2 inches frame would just toss me aside. I mean, he's never actually hit me, but isn't that how it always plays out on TV? How did I end up with another jerk? Thinking that, I cried even harder. My phone suddenly rang. I wiped away my tears and picked it up. Ethan hadn't replied to my text, he just called. I cleared my throat before answering. What's the meaning of this? His voice was unreadable. I wanted to sound tougher, and my tone came out bolder than I intended. You cheated, I'm breaking up with you. What did I do? He sounded genuinely disbelieving. That gave me courage. So I said, I saw everything. Downstairs from your dorm, you kissed someone else. What are you talking about? You're still denying it? My anger flared. We're done. You jerk. Ethan sneered again, his voice devoid of warmth. Say that to my face if you're brave enough. Before I could react, he hung up. Even though Ethan's tone was flat, I detected a chill. Sure enough, less than half an hour later, the front door was opened from the outside. It was Ethan. Oh, right. He knew the code to my apartment. He stared at me expressionlessly, walking slowly closer. I couldn't help but feel intimidated, huddling in the corner of the couch with a pillow. What are you doing here? My voice sounded so weak. Came to hear the reason I'm being dumped. He sprawled casually on the couch opposite me, his voice level. My lower face buried in the pillow. I'm humbled. Didn't I already tell you? Ethan watched me for a couple of seconds. When did you see me kissing someone? Forced to replay the scene in my head, I felt a little down. Around 4 o'clock. He scoffed, tossing his phone lightly onto the coffee table. It was playing a video of a group of guys playing basketball, with the recording time visible. At 4 o'clock, I was still playing basketball on the sports field. Were you seeing things, Chloe? I pursed my lips and described the scene I'd seen that afternoon, word for word. Even though I'd only seen a back, the build and height were really similar. Even the jacket they were wearing was identical. That was my roommate, Chris. He borrowed a jacket from me to go on a date today. Hearing Ethan's calm explanation, my mood instantly went from cloudy to clear. But I still stubbornly mumbled, the back looked way too similar. Can't blame me for getting it wrong. Ethan didn't say anything, just got up and walked towards me, stopping by the couch. A strange chill went down my spine. I watched him with wide eyes. What are you doing? The next second, he picked me up and stood me on the couch. My arms instinctively went around his neck. Couldn't you tell he was half a head shorter than me? Was he? I looked down at Ethan, tilting my head as I thought. Asking for it? He gave a small smirk. I instinctively blurted, "Are you going to rough me up?" He gave a lazy Then, he lightly swatted my lower back. My face instantly flushed. I glared at him. You pervert. He seemed to be in a better mood. He turned around and sat on the couch with me still in his arms. He settled me onto his lap, facing him. Still breaking up with me? He looked at me with an air of amusement. Feeling awkward, I leaned forward and buried my face in his neck, not saying anything. His low, magnetic chuckle vibrated in my ear. Then he lightly bit my earlobe. You only get away with acting like this with me. Brandon is BA. CK in the country. By the time I heard the news, he was already standing in front of me. Chloe, long time no see. The guy in front of me still looked clean-cut and sunny. But who would have thought the reason Brandon and I broke up was because he cheated on me with a freshman? I saw it myself, at a hotel. He had the girl wrapped in a blanket, sitting on the edge of the bed, smoking a cigarette. He met my eyes without a hint of guilt. So what now, Chloe? You wouldn't let me touch you. I had to take care of my needs, didn't I? After we broke up, he openly started dating that girl. He was already a senior, so when he didn't have class, he took his new girlfriend traveling all over the world. Counting it up, I guess I hadn't seen him in half a year. Do you need something? Hearing him call me so familiarly, a feeling of rejection rose within me. Are you free for lunch? Let's grab a bite. I took a step back and shook my head. I'm busy. Are you still mad at me, Chloe? His eyes dimmed. Even though I messed up back then, I've always only liked you. I almost couldn't maintain my composure. Brandon kept talking. So, Chloe, can you forgive me? Then he made a move to hug me. Before I could dodge, a familiar voice sounded from behind me. Hey man, looks like you're hitting on the wrong girl. Ethan walked over slowly, glancing at the hand Brandon had extended. Your hand. Brandon awkwardly pulled his hand back, his tone displeased. Who are you? I finally found my chance to speak, looking at Brandon. My boyfriend. Brandon gritted his teeth, then let out a cold laugh. Chloe, it hasn't been that long. You're already dating someone else? Must be lonely and desperate, huh? Almost instantly, I felt the dark aura emanating from Ethan beside me. I quickly grabbed his hand, afraid he'd lash out. I still remember, before, someone tried to provoke this privileged guy. He was a brainless rich kid too, relying on his daddy's money. He drove his roaring supercar straight at the guy. He slammed on the brakes less than half a meter away. The guy was so scared, he dropped to his knees and peed himself. It's okay, Ethan. I shook his arm, looking up at him. Ethan gave me a look, and ultimately didn't step forward. I stood in front of Ethan, calmly looking at Brandon. I'm really curious, Brandon, I said, word for word, when you were acting like a dog in heat, whining about needing to take care of your needs, did you ever think about this double standard you're spouting now? Brandon's face flushed red with anger. He took a step forward. Ethan immediately pulled me behind him, looking down at Brandon. I'm only going to say this once. Don't ever try to mess with Chloe again. Brandon knew he was in the wrong. Finally, he let out a cold snort and turned to leave. Scared I'd hurt him? Ethan pinned me against a tree, his dark eyes fixed on me. Still hung up on him, huh? Just because he was your first love? Feeling a little helpless, I wrapped my arms around his neck. What's there to be hung up on? He's not as tall as you, not as handsome, and not as rich. The guy who had just been full of hostility was instantly appeased. He raised an eyebrow. Pretty shallow, Chloe. I readily admitted it. Ethan spoke again, unhurriedly. I'll let you experience something deeper later. What? I froze, looking at him confused. He whispered near my ear, chuckling, once we're married, damn right I'll show you what you're missing. Realizing what he meant, I twisted his arm and glared at him. You jerk! Your head's full of trash. I was about to kick him away and break free. But he pinned me against the tree again, effortlessly. Ethan cupped my face with one hand, leaning down to kiss me. I clenched my teeth, deliberately not opening my mouth. He wasn't in a hurry. After kissing around my mouth a few times, the hand supporting my neck moved forward and pinched my earlobe. I shivered, instinctively relaxed, and he pried open my teeth. Only when I was about to run out of breath did he slowly pull back a little, kissing the corner of my mouth intermittently. How come after all this time, you still haven't learned to breathe? I wanted to ask myself the same thing. How come after all this time, I still blush every time Ethan kisses me? I'd never seen Ethan like that before, so violent it made me feel like if he'd actually had a knife on him, he would have butchered Brandon. That night, at the club dinner, Brandon, as the former president, surprisingly showed up. Throughout the whole dinner, he didn't say a word to me, acting as if he didn't know me, which I was perfectly happy with. But when the dinner was almost over and there were only a few people left, Brandon got drunk. On the way back, relying on the late hour when there weren't many people around, he insisted he couldn't walk and dragged me towards a nearby hotel, saying he wanted to stay there. I desperately tried to shake off his grip on my wrist, but it wouldn't budge. No, Chloe. He looked at me drunkenly. You've definitely slept with Ethan by now, haven't you? Why are you still acting innocent? We dated for a while, what's the big deal about sleeping with me? My wrist stung from his grip. I was forced to take another step closer with him. Brandon, you're drunk. Let go of me. He ignored me, dragging me all the way to the hotel entrance. Ethan just happened to be having dinner with his roommates nearby. I didn't know if he'd gone back yet. I wanted to call him, but my hands were tied up. I was almost in tears with panic. In my distress, I spotted Ethan and his roommates not far away. Ethan! The moment he looked over at me, the anxiety in my heart settled. Ethan was only coming out now, so he must have had a few drinks. He saw what was happening, his face darkening. He dragged a nearby chair over and walked towards us. Without a moment's hesitation, he swung it at Brandon's back. The hand hat had been gripping mine finally let go. Brandon was already unsteady from drinking, and the blow sent him sprawling onto the ground. Didn't I warn you, you bastard, not to bother her anymore? Ethan's voice was devoid of warmth, yet eerily calm. Brandon lay on the ground, yelling in pain but still managing to taunt, as if he was trying to push Ethan's limits. He squinted and scoffed. Your girlfriend? I was making out with her before you even knew she existed. Ethan didn't say anything. He picked up an empty bottle nearby and swung it straight at Brandon's head. Today, damn right I'm gonna teach you a lesson. He said this calmly, then picked up the chair again and walked towards Brandon. The calmer Ethan appeared on the surface, the less rational he was. Ethan! Watching the blood spill from Brandon's head, I felt a shiver of fear. He didn't seem to hear me, his steps still didn't stop. It wasn't until I shouted his name again that his roommates finally snapped back to reality and quickly grabbed Ethan. It was chaotic. Nobody noticed that someone hiding in the shadows had recorded the whole thing. Brandon scrambled away on his hands and knees, desperate to get away from Ethan. After turning back to make sure Ethan was really held back by his roommates, and with blood still dripping from his nose, he started yelling. I'm calling the cops! I'm calling the cops! Ethan just twitched his lips, giving him a condescending look from above. Completely unafraid. But I didn't want him to have a record. I straightened my clothes, pursed my lips, and walked over. I was about to tell Brandon that it was fine if he called the cops, because I would tell them the truth about him harassing me. But the approaching police sirens interrupted me. Someone had already called the police. We were taken directly to the police station. Before I could find a chance to get close to Brandon, the group of people who walked out of the elevator made my eyes widen. It happened that the deputy police chief was there for an inspection, accompanied by the precinct chief and others. The deputy chief happened to glance over, saw Ethan and me, paused, and then walked over. Hey, you punk, causing trouble? All eyes suddenly focused on Ethan. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Uncle Robert, what a coincidence. What are you doing here? Causing trouble too? Everyone looked horrified. Can he really say that? Me? The last time Ethan and I were out to dinner, we ran into Uncle Robert. He was in plain clothes then. Ethan had introduced him simply as a very good uncle. Even though he was his father's friend, he somehow got along better with Ethan's devil-may-care personality. As expected, Uncle Robert wasn't angry. He just scoffed, still acting cocky, even here. He didn't try to plead for Ethan or say anything, but everyone else wasn't stupid either. Plus, I had already told Brandon my terms. Even Brandon, who had been making the biggest fuss at first, didn't say anything else and agreed to settle it privately. When we left the police station, it was just Ethan and me. Brandon was probably afraid Ethan would come after him again, so the moment they let him go, he bolted. At 2 a.m. Ethan and I walked side by side on the empty street. He silently took off his jacket and put it over my shoulders, then took my hand before speaking softly. Did I scare you back there? I nodded. A little. It won't happen again, Chloe. Don't be afraid of me. Looking at the 6 feet 2 inches guy in front of me, who seemed visibly down like a big puppy, I stopped walking. Stepping onto a low curb beside the street, I brought myself level with his eyes. Cupping his face in my hands, I said, word for word, "I wasn't scared of you hitting him. I know you did it for me." He just pursed his lips, not saying anything. I continued, "I was just scared you'd get yourself a police record for hitting him. It's not worth it for a jerk like that, you get it, Ethan?" As I spoke, I lightly shook his head. "So, please, really don't let there be a next time. Promise me, okay? Ethan." He lowered his gaze, nodded, and pulled me into his arms. "Okay. I promise." Even Ethan, who had been so composed and indifferent at the police station, still acting like he owned the world, was now acting cautiously, worried I might be afraid of him. I couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy. I nestled into his arms, rubbing against him obediently. In the quiet atmosphere, I suddenly remembered Brandon's taunt to Ethan. "I was making out with her before you even knew she existed." I paused. Even though he hadn't asked, and didn't show any sign of being bothered, I didn't want him to bottle it up by himself. I lifted my head from Ethan's embrace to look at him. "Brandon was just talking nonsense today, don't take it seriously. We were only together for less than 2 months, and the most we ever did was hug once." Ethan instantly understood what I was saying and chuckled. He reached up and brushed my lips. "Trying to smooth things over?" My face felt hot. I blinked and admitted it frankly. "Yeah. I really didn't care that much, and even if it were true, it wouldn't matter. I fell for you, the person. Get it?" There was obvious seriousness in his eyes. But while he said he didn't care, I didn't believe for a second that he wasn't jealous. "So," I deliberately teased him. "Oh really?" I tilted my head, looking at him. I wonder who it was whose face got so dark after hearing Brandon. It was like he was going to. Before I could finish, Ethan cupped the back of my neck and leaned down to cover my mouth with his. The force was a little rough. The intense silence around us made the sounds of our swallowing even more noticeable. I couldn't breathe and pushed against him a couple of times. Only then did he let go. Ethan buried his face in my neck and didn't say anything. After a while, he finally spoke, still in that rough tone. But I detected a hint of grievance. Damn it, I didn't even dare smoke for 2 days before that kiss. I didn't have any damn experience either. I was scared I'd mess up your first kiss. I remembered that day. It was both our first kiss. When we got close and our warmth touched, Ethan wasn't very good at it either. Our first kiss was a clumsy yet tentative exploration. The video of Ethan hitting Brandon was quietly posted on the online school forum. Things were brewing silently. When I first heard about it, I was completely worried about Ethan being misunderstood and attacked by people who didn't know the whole story. But when I clicked on the video, I realized the person who posted the video was intentionally or unintentionally directing the blame towards me. The title was clear: "Ex and current boyfriend fighting it out. Is this girl playing them both to show off?" Ashley's back from her leave of absence. I picked up an unknown number. It was Brandon on the other end. "Who's that?" I asked. "She's." He dragged out the word, as if searching for the right description. "She's the one person Ethan can't refuse." I didn't bother to respond. Listening to the words of someone who clearly had ulterior motives and doubting my own boyfriend? Was I out of my mind? Brandon wasn't surprised by my attitude. He chuckled. "Now the rumors about you are all over school. Has Ethan called you? Sent you even one text?" I scoffed. "My boyfriend is none of your concern. What you should be doing is thinking hard about how you're going to explain yourself before I get that surveillance video and prove my innocence. I'm saying this one last time. Stop bothering me." Being with Ethan for a while, I was even starting to sound a bit like him. Saying that, I hung up and called Ethan. Not surprisingly, no answer. Holding my phone, I unconsciously murmured, "Ashley." Suddenly, my phone rang. An unknown number. I answered and held it to my ear. "Hello? This is Ashley." She asked T. "Oh, meet me at the swimming pool near the school." When I got there, she was the only one in the entire pool. That's when I realized she'd booked it out. Ashley surfaced, pushing up her goggles. "Hello there," followed by a sweet smile. "Did you need something?" I pursed my lips, watching her, and didn't indulge her insincere politeness. Seeing my directness, her smile didn't falter. She didn't seem to have any intention of getting out, just swam around leisurely. "I want to know," Ashley said, tilting her head to look at me, "how much do you like Ethan?" She acted as if she were genuinely curious, with no hint of provocation in her expression. I don't need to tell an outsider. The intensifying rumors around school were already exhausting enough. I didn't have time to deal with a meaningless rival. The reason she was meaningless was because I had never doubted Ethan for a second. She shrugged. "It doesn't matter. I don't care. After all, nobody in this world could possibly like him more than I do." The moment she finished speaking, she swam to the edge, grabbed the handrail, and pulled herself out. Then she turned around, her back to me, giving me a full view. Her back, not covered by her swimsuit, was a large area of horrifying burn scars, raised and uneven. A stark contrast to the smooth, pale skin around them. I watched, my voice catching. Ashley turned back around. She glanced at my reaction, not surprised at all. "Is it frightening?" Then she casually picked up a towel and draped it around herself. I watched her in silence. Meeting my gaze, she slowly walked closer. "This is the mark I got 9 years ago saving Ethan. I cherish it too much to find it scary." "Why would you think it's frightening?" "It's proof of how much I love him." She said, word for word, I would dare to die for him. Looking into her fathomless eyes, I dimly saw something pathological. A psycho. I couldn't help but step back. The curve of her lips slowly widened, but her smile was cold. "So, what makes you think you have the right to act like Ethan's girlfriend?" A chill went down my spine. I inexplicably wanted to run away. The next second, Ashley pushed me into the pool before I was ready. I thrashed in the water, struggling. I could faintly hear Ashley's voice. "Can't swim? What a coincidence." I had them turn off the surveillance cameras too. "Now's your chance to prove to me that you love Ethan more than I do. If you can, how about I let you be with him?" I hadn't looked closely before I fell in. The pool water went over my head again and again. Only then did I realize it was the deep end. "Chloe!" I thought I heard Ethan's voice. A few seconds later, I was pulled out of the water by a strong force. Ethan held on to me as he got back to the side of the pool. I sat on a chair, coughing hard. "Ethan!" Ashley called him softly, her voice tinged with helplessness. Ethan acted as if he hadn't heard her, continuing to pat my back. "Feeling better?" After catching my breath, the realization of how scared I was set in. My eyes instantly welled up. I didn't dare speak, just stared at him blankly, afraid I'd start crying the moment I spoke. My tear-prone nature kicked in the second I saw Ethan. Ethan's furrowed brow hadn't relaxed at all. He lifted his hand and pulled me straight into his arms, stroking the back of my head. "It's okay, it's okay." Since there was a third person present, I felt too embarrassed to stay in Ethan's arms for long. I quickly pushed him away and sat up on my own. "Are you still feeling bad?" Ethan knelt in front of me and wrapped a towel around me. I shook my head. I didn't swallow too much water. Good thing Ethan arrived in time. He nodded, pulled me up, and we left. He didn't even spare Ashley a glance. "Ethan!" Ashley called out loudly, "Are you mad at me for the sake of an outsider?" I gritted my teeth. Who's she calling an outsider? Ethan stopped, turned back, and lifted his eyes to look at H. His voice was utterly devoid of emotion. "The only reason I've put up with you until now is because of that fire." He twitched his lips. "But I've been thinking about something these past few days. How did the fire in my study start, out of nowhere?" Ashley's face visibly paled. "What do you mean?" Ethan gave a meaningless smile. He didn't say anything else, just pulled me along and left. It wasn't until I was about to walk out that I looked back and saw Ashley still standing exactly where she was. Ethan walked me back downstairs from the dorm, his hand never letting go, but he didn't say a word either. Not until we reached downstairs. Go back up and take a shower and change. He let go of my hand. I'll go buy you some cold medicine, just in case. I looked at him for a few seconds, sensing something was off, but I couldn't pinpoint it. Okay. I didn't ask any questions, just nodded obediently. After showering and drying my hair, Ethan still hadn't called. Then, I casually scrolled through the online school forum, only to find that the video was inexplicably gone. Ethan is in the computer science department. That was the first thought that popped into my head. I walked onto the balcony and glanced out. I saw Ethan standing downstairs, a cigarette between his fingers. He looked like he'd been standing there for a long time. His tall, lean back looked a little somber. Dragging my slippers, I ran straight downstairs. Ethan saw me come out of the building and raised his hand to put out his cigarette. Finished your shower? I nodded. He cupped my face and lifted me onto the nearby steps, almost level with him. He leaned down slightly and pulled me into a full embrace, nuzzling my neck. My lower face was still buried below his shoulder. I wrinkled my nose and sniffed. The faint scent of cigarette smoke, which I hadn't smelled on him in a long time, was there. After Ethan and I started dating, he rarely smoked, and usually did it without me knowing. I mumbled his name. Ethan. What's wrong? He paused for a moment before slowly letting go of me. His dark eyes looked at me. He was apologizing for everything Ashley had done that involved me. Meanwhile, she used the fact that she'd saved Ethan's life as leverage, threatening him so he couldn't act against her. I sighed softly. Sure enough, he was blaming himself. Blaming himself because, as my boyfriend, he had been silenced and couldn't stand up for me. Ethan's voice was deliberately low, as if to soothe me. Don't be afraid, Chloe, she won't bother you again. I blinked. Chloe? That was the first time Ethan had ever called me that. I tugged on his sleeve, pulling him closer. I guess I can forgive you. Give me a kiss and I'll be all better. Ethan's Adam's apple bobbed. His eyes suddenly darkened. Where? His tone was unreadable. Heat instantly crept up my ears. I looked at him, a little flustered, unable to find the words to answer. He leaned closer and lightly touched the side of my face, then pulled back slightly, looking at me through half-closed eyes. Here? I didn't say anything, my face red. Ethan kissed the tip of my nose. Or here. Impulsively, I stiffened my neck and leaned forward, pressing my lips straight against the corner of his mouth, muttering, here. Ethan's voice suddenly turned a little hoarse. Okay. Then he cupped my chin and kissed me. Unlike before, this kiss was patient and lingered. The apology was clear. After that, we hugged for a long time. Ethan explained why he'd been out of touch for the past 2 days. Ashley's leave of absence was because she was hospitalized, a lingering effect from that fire. As soon as she got out of the hospital, Ethan's mom pressured him to spend a few days with her. Then, while Ethan was asleep, she had someone take his phone. But Ethan wasn't a kid anymore. In just a day and a half, he managed to get away from his mom and come back. It wasn't until dusk that Ethan finally leave me go back to the dorm. Chloe, remember to make and drink one of these when you get back. He handed me a plastic bag containing cold medicine. I just stared at him expectantly, not taking it, not saying anything. What's wrong? My mouth drooped. I complained to him. It's Chloe. Don't call me Chloe. He smiled, walked over, and rubbed the tip of my nose with his, looking into my eyes. Chloe. His breath tickled my lips. And I blushed again, predictably. Ashley was the most twisted person I'd ever met in my 20-something years. Period. She could die for Ethan, and she could also risk Ethan's life just to keep him by her side. 9 years ago, a fire suddenly broke out in Ethan's study. Coincidentally, the study door was broken, and both he and Ashley, who was visiting, were trapped inside. As the fire grew, Ethan was frantically smashing the door lock with a golf club, unaware of the danger behind him. A burning bookshelf was about to collapse. The moment it tipped towards Ethan, Ashley pushed him out of the way, but didn't manage to escape in time herself, suffering extensive burns on her back. At the time, everyone was only concerned with Ethan and Ashley's injuries. When asked about the cause of the fire, Ashley just said a lighter exploded and ignited something. But nobody considered one question. Ethan only recently realized he'd overlooked this crucial point. Why would a 13-year-old boy have a lighter in his study? Ethan hadn't started smoking that early back then. Everyone just assumed someone cleaning had accidentally left it there. Nobody would think that Ashley was the real culprit. After all, she was only 12 at the time. The whole thing didn't hold up under scrutiny. And neither did Ashley. Especially when facing Ethan. 9 years had passed, making it difficult to find concrete evidence. So, Ethan chose to confront Ashley directly. At first, she completely denied it. Ethan didn't press her further. Instead, he took her to the movie theater. He rented out the theater for her to watch a movie. Ashley thought Ethan believed her and happily went along. Halfway through, Ethan suddenly told her, "Chloe and I had our first kiss in this theater, in this very seat." Ashley froze instantly. "I was the one who stole a kiss from her," Ethan said. "I don't want to hear it," Ashley said, her voice tight with suppressed anger. Ethan ignored her, continuing to speak as if to himself. "Back then, I was just looking at the side of her face. The more I looked, the cuter she seemed, and I just couldn't help but kiss her." He spoke as if he were sharing with Ashley. "You know what? I just kissed her cheek, and she blushed like a peach. Later." I said I don't want to hear it. Ashley stood up, her shout echoing through the entire theater. Hearing Ethan say this, I wholeheartedly approved of his initial decision to rent out the place. Because psychos can freak out anytime, anywhere. "Tell me what you like about her." "Ethan, we've known each other for over 10 years. We're the childhood sweethearts." Ethan remained slouched in his chair, letting her have her breakdown. "I didn't almost kill my childhood sweetheart." Ashley had reached her breaking point. She retorted loudly. "I never wanted to kill you. You were going to transfer schools, I just wanted you to stay by my side forever. I had your father's climbing rope in the corner, the window was open, and if the door really wouldn't open, I would have gotten it for you. I had everything planned out." Her eyes were bloodshot. "I would die before I let you die, you know that, Ethan. So you admit it?" Ashley's heavy breathing cut off abruptly. She shook her head in disbelief. "You did that on purpose?" Ethan finally stood up. "There are cameras here. It's pointless to deny it." "Ashley, I don't have solid proof, and besides, you were only 12 back then. Even if I took this to the police, with your parents covering for you, you wouldn't face any real charge." "Es." Ashley's face was deathly pale, and her lips were trembling. But Ethan showed no emotion, continuing. "So, you'd better behave yourself from now on and stay out of my sight. You don't want me bringing this up to your parents, do you?" Ashley finally lowered her head and gave in. Ethan and I sat on the couch in my apartment, listening to him finish his story. I didn't believe Ashley hadn't said anything else. She must have clung to Ethan and declared her love a few more times. Something about how she was the one who truly loved him, no doubt. But he didn't want to bother me with it, and I was happy for the peace. Suddenly, I remembered something and tugged at his sleeve again. "Who was like a peach?" I brought up the old topic. "Was my face really red then?" Ethan quirked the corner of his mouth and nodded. "Okay, so my first kiss wasn't beautiful at all. And I was bright red." I sank into endless disappointment, not noticing Ethan moving closer. My face was unexpectedly touched again. I covered my face and turned my head, glaring at him. "Stop kissing me! I'm going to blush again." Ethan gave a lazy tisk. "If I don't kiss you, who would I kiss?" Saying that, he moved my hand away and kissed the left side of my face. "What's wrong with being red? You look like a ripe peach, so cute." Apparently, Ethan liked peaches. If my face got any hotter, I'd turn into an apple. I quickly buried myself in Ethan's arms, pressing against his cool hoodie to cool down. Ethan's arm wrapped around my shoulder, and he rubbed my ear. "Are you touch-starved? Always needing hugs?" I retorted quietly, not wanting to be outdone. Then you're addicted to kissing. Ethan admitted it readily. Can't help it. Right now, there's nothing else we can do besides kissing. Shut up, you jerk. Ethan held me, turning me so I was sitting sideways on his lap, his head buried in my neck. After a while, he finally ground out a sentence. Why aren't you 20 yet? I blinked, unable to answer. Ever since the incident where I fell into the water, Ethan had been on edge. He insisted on making me learn to swim. He dragged me into the school swimming pool. There weren't many people at this hour, and the few who were there were getting ready to leave. Only Ashley was left. Both times I'd seen her, she'd been in the water. Is she a fish? I twitched my lips. Ethan clearly saw her too. He just glanced at her and pulled me, intending to leave. Just a few steps out, and there was a frantic splashing sound from behind us. Ethan! My leg cramped. Help me! Ethan stopped again and pulled me back. But he didn't get in the water, just watched calmly. Ethan! Ashley called out for help in between struggles. Watching Ashley's splashing grow weaker, I poked Ethan. Aren't you going to save her? Ethan tilted his head and glanced at me. Little saint. She was the one who pushed you in last time, remember? I paused for a few seconds before I remembered. Oh. It wasn't that I had a bad memory, it was just that what she did was so shocking that for a moment I only remembered the arson-suicide attempt to get him to like her. I got petty again and didn't say anything else. It wasn't until the water was about to go over Ashley's head that Ethan calmly called over the pool attendant. Ethan timed it perfectly, letting Ashley suffer enough to be miserable but without any fatal consequences. Ashley was pulled ashore, coughing up large amounts of water. I watched from the side, feeling no sympathy at all. Whether it was me in the pool recently, or Ethan in the fire 9 years ago, all I can say is, we were incredibly lucky to survive. As for whether Ashley truly intended to kill us, since things didn't go that far, we'll never know for sure. Ashley seemed genuinely shaken. Soon after, I heard she transferred to a school abroad. When Brandon heard Ashley was gone and knew her attempt to cause trouble hadn't worked, he started stirring things up in subtly, using a burner account on the online school forum to subtly bring up the video from that night. This time, he directed his accusations at Ethan, blaming him for the violence. Not many people dared to directly confront Ethan openly in the first place. Most people were just watching for the drama and didn't comment. Ethan couldn't be bothered to respond to him. But I couldn't stand it. I went to the hotel from that night and begged the manager to get a copy of the surveillance video. Then I tagged Brandon directly in a reply on the online school forum. Public opinion instantly shifted. Brandon's comment section was immediately flooded with all sorts of abuse. Some people even went to his classroom to mess with him. Ethan just gave a non-committal chuckle when he heard about it. Who the hell is he? Damn right I don't have time to deal with him. Not until he finally noticed my death glare. He raised an eyebrow, changing the subject. Finally admitting how much I'd helped. How do you want to celebrate your 20th birthday? Ethan asked. I lit up my phone screen to check the date and suddenly realized it was only a week away. After thinking about it, I said, let's go to that new pizza place near school. I remember they give a birthday discount. Ethan gave me a look that was somewhere between a smile and a smirk and didn't bother to say anything else. But when my birthday actually arrived, Ethan didn't mention a thing, acting like it was just another day. Several friends stayed up until midnight to send me birthday wishes, but my boyfriend was up late coding. I nursed my resentment until 6 p.m. when Ethan finally called and told me to come downstairs. I didn't know if his brain had been scooped out, or if he felt guilty about something he'd done. He barely seemed to notice how obviously upset I was. He just took me to a slightly nicer restaurant for dinner. He didn't say anything special. My mood had hit rock bottom. I was lost in my own gloomy world. I didn't even notice Ethan driving me up a mountain. After getting out, I looked at the empty mountain top, confused. Ethan went straight to the trunk and pulled out a box. What's that? I asked. Hold on. He didn't look up. I wasn't really in the mood to ask anymore. He set up the stand, and then I realized. A telescope? He nodded, then adjusted the direction, peered into it at a certain angle. Then he straightened up and let out a long breath. I was completely confused. Are we here to watch a meteor shower? He shook his head, then looked at his watch. Perfect timing. He lifted his eyes to look at me. There was a rare gentleness in them. Happy birthday, Chloe. The resentment I'd held in all day burst out at that moment. It's almost over. You were born at 10:47 p.m. Isn't it just hitting that time now? He furrowed his brow, as if trying to remember. My voice caught, thick with tears. Huh? That's when I realized he had called my dad to ask for my exact birth time. I had been upset all day for nothing. Only then did he notice my mood and take a few steps closer. Why aren't you happy? I pouted. I thought you forgot. Bullshit. He scoffed. I'd forget my own birthday before I forgot yours. I looked at him accusingly. Then didn't you notice how upset I was all day? I barely said anything. He fell silent. Sorry, I was thinking about something else. Oh, great. With his girlfriend, and he's still thinking about something else. And he even ignored his girlfriend because of it. Yeah, I wasn't less upset, thanks. So what were you thinking about? I asked. The weather tonight. He pulled me over to the telescope. What do you see? He asked. Stars. He lifted his chin expressionlessly. Look again, closely. I looked for a while longer. Suddenly, I straightened up. Q. The cluster of stars formed a shape that looked just like a Q. He raised an eyebrow triumphantly and added lazily, That's your cue, just for you. I was stunned. Ethan said he bought the naming rights for the 6 most prominent planets in that star cluster. Named after the 6 letters Xiaoxi, possibly with a long string of numbers after them. He'd been worrying about the weather all day, terrified we wouldn't be able to see them. Thank goodness. My resentment from the whole day instantly vanished. I threw myself into his arms, hiding my rising smile. Ethan hugged me back, his warm breath on my ear. So, can I have a chance to propose now? Chloe, turning 20. I kissed his cheek and looked into his eyes. They reflected the starry sky behind me, including the 6 stars that formed the Q. My voice mingled with the wind, carrying to every corner of the valley. Yes. The end.